Good evening, everybody. This is Alderman Lee, and this is the 11th Ward. We're doing a follow-up community meeting regarding a zoning change that's been requested. The original request was it was actually zoning changes for 2 properties. Now it's just going to be 1. Originally, it was requesting a change from B1-1 to B1-2. For 301 to 315 West 31st Street. That's been taken off the table. So the owner's plans have changed. So he's not going to need a zoning change to make changes to the building. He's changed his mind on that. What will still be remaining, though, is what we'll discuss tonight, which is for the parking. I think if you are a neighbor that lives within 250 feet, you probably received another notice. For the parking for the empty lot located at 3114 South Princeton. It is a change that zoning from R4 to a B1-2 to enable the owner to make that into a parking lot for the facility that's across the alley. With us today is Mr. Tom Moore, representing the owner, Mr. Howard Mui, who's also on the call here. I think most of you, well, some of you may know Kathy Disney from my staff. If we wouldn't mind just going ahead and introducing yourself. I'll start with you, Roseanne.
Hi, Roseanne Jacoviak, lifelong neighbor here on 31st and Princeton. Family's been here since 1929.
Great. Thanks for being with us. Joe?
Yes, I'm a neighbor of the property. I was one of the people inquiring for going on about 2+ years now about this property, and concerned about our well-being here as a community and our safety, and I live very close to that property.
Okay, thanks for being on the call, Joe. Appreciate it. John?
John LaMonica. I've been living in the area for 35 years. Very concerned about that lot. It's been an eyesore. It's been a mess. It's been a receptacle for a bunch of junk cars for a long time. Thank you for cleaning up the yard and requesting Howard to do that. And I have a lot of concerns about this.
All right. Thanks for being on the call, John. Robert?
Hi, Robert Nelter, a budding property owner to the subject zoning request at 3116 South Princeton. And
Robert, it's really hard to hear you.
Hi, my name is Robert Nelter, and I am the budding
property owner at 3116 South Princeton Avenue.
Thank you. So
and I also share similar concerns with my neighbors regarding this request.
Got it. Okay, Diana?
Hi, I'm Diana Martinez, and I live on the block, lifelong resident on this block, and also have concern about what's happening with that property.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Howard, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Howard. We try to have a adult daycare on 31st Street, and we needed to change the zoning on 3114 South Princeton in order to get a permit for the permitted parking.
Okay. Tom, do you want to jump in here, and I can share my screen so that we can show everybody what the plan is.
So Howard owns the building that's on 31st Street there. And in order to have an adult daycare center for seniors, to have various activities and seminars and exercise facilities, he needs to have employee parking. And this lot that, as several of you have mentioned, has been a mess. He would have to put tens of thousands of dollars into it to come into compliance with landscaping and fencing and striping. And he'd have to meet all the codes and ordinances. And but right now he cannot do it because it's R4, it's residential only. So in order to have an employee parking lot, he'd have to change it to a B zone. It'd be right across the alley from his facility, and he only needs about 4 or 5 spaces to meet the requirements, but he would have extra spaces in case there's a visitor or someone extra. he'd have to fully landscape it and pave it and fence it and bring it into compliance. And that's the request. He can't do it right now. So we bring it from being a mess to being in compliance if the aldermen and the neighborhood support it.
So there, at this point, we generally entertain questions. If you want to let us know what your concerns are, this is the whole point. Yeah, go ahead, Joe. You got your hand up.
So, you know, I want to start this out. Like I said, I grew up on this block. I own multiple properties on this block. That property at 3114 has been an eyesore for years now. For 2 years, I've been trying with the alderman's office prior to you, Nicole, to trying to get this done, get this cleaned up. I understand that, Mr. Moore, you said that Howard needs this done to do this, but we as neighbors needed Howard to be a good neighbor for years previous till now on getting this cleaned up, but Howard failed to do that. Now, I don't know Howard. If I seen Howard on the street, I would never know him. But it's not a, it just goes about what our safety is for the neighborhood, for our kids, it looks like a ghetto. It's terrible. There's no reason for it. So, Mr. Moore, you said that Howard wants this parking lot for his employees. What about the parking lot that Howard owns on the north side of 31st Street? That's a huge parking lot. Why can't Howard utilize that instead of taking what is very valuable, by the way, in case anybody doesn't know, R4 zoning is very, very uncommon, especially here in the neighborhood. So R4, if anybody doesn't know what R4 is, you could basically put a 3-story condo building up there. So here's my question. Why would Howard, when he has a parking lot, a huge parking lot on the north side of 31st Street, directly across the street from the building, and Howard also has a parking lot on the corner, it would be the southeast corner of 31st and Shields, why would he want to change the zoning, a valuable zoning, change it from R4 to a parking lot, and pay all this money? Plus, I don't know if you mentioned, Mr. Moore, you have to put sewers in there as well, I believe. You have to,
He has to come into full compliance, yes.
yeah. So why would he want to spend all this money, and why would the city want a parking lot there when the city and the county can make so much more revenue off of the taxes on a 3-unit condo building than we would on a parking lot? That's number one. Number two is Howard would make more money on building a 3-unit condo building there, and he would make more money off the sale of that than he would on a parking lot, which also is an eyesore for us as a community. There was a house there for years. Now I'm looking at this, you got 8, definitely 8, possibly 12 parking spots, which would be a continued eyesore of what we've been looking at for the last couple of years. Yeah, okay, you say you're going to put a couple of shrubs and a fence. You know, that's like putting perfume on a pig. What belongs there, it's an R4 zoning, and we're tired of looking at a parking lot, I'll be honest with you. For years, there's dilapidated cars, used oil drums, used antifreeze drums, car parts, just people hanging out there that shouldn't be. It was just a dumping ground for years. So now we're going to make it a nice paved lot, which is going to be a parking lot. Still cars there. I don't want to look out my window and see cars. I want to see a house. I want to see a building. I want to see a family that lives in there, not a parking lot. So maybe you could answer these questions for me, Mr. Moore, and everybody
Yes,
else.
sir.
Why Howard wouldn't want to use the parking lot directly north of 31st Street, or the
Yep.
one that's directly west of him?
Yes,
Why
sir.
would he need this little 25 by 125 foot lot and change the zoning? That's a valuable piece here. And the only thing that's zoned R4 is Wells, Princeton, Shields.
Yes, sir.
So-
The reasons would be that that other parking lot is designated for and meets the requirements for his child daycare center, which is on the west part of this building. The east part of this building is empty and it's unused, and he'd like to use it for something that he believes there's a market for and is needed, and that would be a senior daycare center. And so he, in order to meet the city's requirements, that other parking lot meets the city's requirements for the east part of the building, the child daycare center, but it does not meet the requirements to add this additional business. And in terms of your question about why wouldn't he just build a building there? He's in the daycare business. He has several other facilities in other areas of this neighborhood and other neighborhoods, and he's not a developer of 3 flats or condos. He's a daycare provider, and so that's his business. But he can't do the business without meeting the city code requirements for parking, etc. And it's a shame that it's been a terrible eyesore. But it will be much better if it meets all the codes and it is landscaped and is properly fenced and drained and lighted. So that's the request, is to facilitate his business right across the alley. And he can't meet those requirements with the existing parking lot because they're already spoken for.
So that lot that's directly.
John, I'll get you
north of
next,
the
okay?
building,
Go ahead, Joe, sorry.
The lot that's directly north of 31st Street, directly across the street from there, is a very large parking lot. Anybody drives past there, they know it. I don't know, Mr. Moore, if you're familiar with it.
Yes,
It's a huge parking lot that other people use from adjoining buildings that are not supposed to use it. Why can't he utilize that? I mean, we're not talking about, White Sox Park here. And the people that are going to be parking in there. This is a large parking lot that would easily handle his flow of employees and clients and everything else that are coming there. So why wouldn't he just utilize that instead of trying to take one of our pieces of property that we look at every day and that we have issues with, that have had issues with for years? Just leave it R4. And I understand that he's not in the contract, but he's not a builder. But you know what? Sell the lot then to a builder who's going to put up a house there, because it's R4 zoning. Frankly, as a resident that has to look at this eyesore every day, and I can't speak for everybody else on here, but I think everybody else is pretty much on the same page. We don't want a parking lot. We want a house. Put a house there, put a building there, put people in there, put families in there, not a parking lot. This is not an industrial area. As much as Howard wants it to be, it's not an industrial area. And that's what it's making it look like. So it's going to go from looking like the ghetto to an industrial area. I'm sorry, I don't want that. I'm tired of looking at it.
Okay, thanks for your comments and your questions, Joe. John, you had your hand up next. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is directed to Attorney Moore. Attorney Moore, first of all, what type of guarantee will we get from Howard to promise us as neighbors of Howard's, lifelong neighbors that have families that live on the block, that Howard is going to guarantee to take care of the property? He has demonstrated to us in the last 4 years that he is not a good neighbor regarding taking care of his property. If you go through the alley, and if you go from the north-south alley behind all the even numbered houses on Princeton to the east, you'll see there's no weeds there. That's not because Howard cleaned the weeds. It's because I go there and I clean the weeds and I pick out all the screws. I couldn't tell you how many nails I got in my cars. My wife had flat tires from when Howard put the addition on his other building, when he put the daycare center above an auto repair shop, which I don't even know how that happened. I've never heard of a daycare center and an auto repair shop in the same building, but I understand how politics work in Chicago, and that could be it. The other issue is regarding Howard's lot that's on Shields. Where's the landscaping for that lot? Because I know you have to have landscaping set aside for all parking lots. There's no landscaping there. There's a bit of an architectural metal fence. And just to demonstrate how congested things are, if you went near the daycare center when it's time to pick things up, don't even try to go through the alley. It's chaotic at best. People go east, west, there's no steady flow. There's nobody directing people to go through there. The garbage overflows from the trash cans. It's terrible. It really is. And last but not least, the existing masonry garage. I've got experience in the construction industry, and I cannot possibly see how you're going to put 4 parking spots that run parallel with each other in that garage. It says 1, 2, 3, 4. How will you get the cars in the garage? There's one garage door that's by 4. The other garage door to get in that is all the way by the public alley, which says 16 feet wide. How are you going to get 4 cars in there? Are you going to knock the garage down? Are you going to take the whole side of which would be the north side of the garage, not take it down and make it a big garage door? And I know Ron Very, he's a good architect, but I don't know. I don't think he drank coffee the morning that he did that. So what do you think? Now, is that a pretty drawing to make us feel good, or is that realistic?
Well, before he can get his license to open his senior daycare center, he would have to have a parking lot that meets and is compliant. And if I'm not an architect either, and you might be right, that may be somewhat aspirational. I mean, the numbers work, the 8 by 18 is the requirement, but how you get in and out of it would have to be worked out and would have to pass the zoning and building department before a permit would be issued. And he needs all of that to be done before he can get his business license. So there's some assurances that it would at least come into compliance with the parking requirements and landscape and fencing requirements. Beyond that, in terms of how does he police it and keep it clean and all of that, he could make an agreement with we could do some sort of covenant or something. Could even, I suppose, put a plan of, if the alderman wanted to, we could put a plan of operation that would tie his business license to keeping this lot clean and policed, and put his business license in danger if he doesn't. So there are ways to try to protect the neighborhood if indeed the neighborhood and the aldermen are willing to accommodate it.
Attorney, one other question. Did you know that there's a body shop in that existing garage? The guy does automobile body work in there?
I think at the west end, is that right?
Yes. There's no running water in there. There's no exhaust system. There's no air purification system. And the guy does body work. And I have 2 daughters. They play in the area. And that's the reason why they have exhaust systems and air filtration systems in auto body shops, is because there's a lot of particulates that get exhausted out when somebody's painting or doing body work. And again, my big concern is we all know we have to have progress, and a parking lot, a clean parking lot would be better than a vacant lot. Not as good as a house or a building with a family in there. But how do we guarantee, Alderman, how is Howard going to guarantee that he's going to demonstrate he's going to be a good neighbor? Because he has not been a good neighbor for the last years that he's been there. And I don't know how he gets away with this, but it's a miracle.
So I don't know either, because I just got here, right? So and in the time that we've been here, I think we've been very responsive to the feedback
Without a
of the
doubt.
community.
Without a doubt.
Yes.
And we worked with Howard to get that done. I can't speak to what happened here before. So, and
Right.
I'm sorry that you guys went through all that. Howard, I hope that you are listening to your neighbors, because regardless of anywhere in this, Robert, are you continuing to try to get into this waiting room? Because I keep saying that you need to be admitted.
That might be my father, Alderwoman
okay.
Lee. Sorry,
Okay.
my father's he
Okay.
might also, he's not as technically adept
Okay,
as I
I'll
am.
just continue to admit that person. I was just a
I
little bit.
appreciate that.
That's no
Thank you.
problem. Okay, so back to the point, John, that you were just asking. So you've got my commitment. My commitment to the community is that everybody that's doing business here is a part of the community, that they can't just. My preference is always that they're somebody who's from the community who wants what's best for the community, and that means taking care of your properties. We've sent our word soup out numerous times to ticket and warn people. We'll give you a chance, and then we'll start ticketing. Because if people don't take care of their properties, we can fine you up to $600 a day for not having your weeds trimmed down. So, and Tom, I think some sort of covenant, if we were to move forward with this, would absolutely be a requirement. So just to what Mr. Moore was saying, a business license to run his operation. So the zoning is such that he has, as of right, he can run a senior daycare out of the building as it is zoned currently. I think that would be an improvement over whatever the garage or the mechanic is there now. That would be out. That would be moving people in. Now I know that there are traffic concerns as well. I think that tying some better behavior around maintenance and being a good neighbor, making sure that the property is maintained, that we have a better look at what the plans will be for the landscaping. These are preliminary drawings. These aren't final. And as Tom said, they would have to be approved by the city. And tying that to any opportunity to renew his license would be in order, just based on the experience that everybody's had at this point.
So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Joe Robert had a question. He's been waiting very patiently.
Yes.
Thank you, Alderwoman Lee. I just wanted to say more from a technical aspect. The statement that a zoning change is needed to establish this as a parking lot isn't accurate. I'm someone who is familiar with the permitting process and the zoning regulations. In an RT4 district, off-site parking can be established with the special use through the Zoning Board of Appeals. So if anything is to move forward, I would, expect that should be the process that it would have to go through, instead of circumventing the Zoning Board of Appeals to change something that's always been a residential zone lot to a B district. It doesn't really make much sense. And I'd be more than happy to share my screen with Attorney Moore, the section of the zoning ordinance I'm referring to.
Tom?
Attorney Moore, are you aware of the fact that in an RT4 district, off-site parking can be established with the special use through the Zoning Board of Appeals?
Well, anytime you have off-site parking, you need a special use. My understanding was that you could not have a business use in an R4, in a residential zone, to serve the business use across the alley offsite. So if
That isn't accurate. And I can quote the section, Mr. Moore. It's section 17-10-0602-C. And what it says required off-street parking and non-required accessory parking, serving uses other than detached houses, townhouses, and two flats, must be located on the same lot as the use served, except that such parking may be located off-site if approved as a special use.
right,
In such cases, the distance between the nearest parking space and the entrance may not exceed 600 feet. So as long as the parking is within 600 feet, off-site parking can be established with the special use through the Zoning Board of Appeals. And a zoning map amendment to a B district just isn't necessary. The other thing, in that same section, 1710, in residential districts, off-street parking is prohibited within the front 20-foot setback. That it would be another basis for an objection to any kind of zoning map amendment to a B district, because that same setback would not apply to Howard's lot in the B zoning district. And we would, given just how busy this lot is, how much pedestrian traffic you have on Princeton, I don't think there should be any spaces within the front 20 setback.
okay. So would you please tell me one more time, 10-206?
Oh, yes, sir. It's 17-10-06-02.
Yes,
And And it would be dash C, and it's the title of that section is location of off-street parking. And the title of that subsection is the following standards apply in all RT, RM, and DR districts.
Yeah, so 1710-0602.
Yes,
Right.
sir. Dash C.
Right, required off-street parking. For, well, but that's the point. It says
It's
for,
except that such parking may be located off-site if approved as a special use.
right, but here's the problem.
If this was an RS district, Mr. Moore, if this
Yeah.
was an RS district, you could not establish an off-site parking lot for a business use, but it is allowed with the special use in an RT district
Well,
pursuant to 1710-0602C.
So I'm reading that section and it says, accessory parking serving uses other than, well, maybe you're right, because it says other than.
You're proposing not to serve a residential, you're proposing to serve a business use off-site.
Okay,
And that, like I said, the process for approving this should be the special use
well,
application.
yeah, you know, if it can be done, I would agree with you. It's always preferred to go to the zoning board because it's less intrusive, less, more local and it gives the same, it's the same notice area and everyone has a right to be heard at the zoning board. I was on the zoning board incidentally many years ago.
I do actually recall that. And actually, and as you know, the zoning resolution would have conditions, associated with this special use approval.
Absolutely, yes.
And if conditions that we feel as the neighbors are more stringent, given how the property has been used, the last few years, we should be able to pursue that in the special use process, I feel, at the zoning board of appeals.
Right, you're right. The zoning board has the right to grant, but it also has the right to limit its grant. So it can put conditions on any grant it gives. I will be glad tomorrow morning to confer with Mr. Murphy and confirm your reading of this, because it has always been my understanding that to serve a business, you needed business zoning. But I agree with you. Those are the words there. And if it can be done, and that would be the preferable way, I'd be glad to try to proceed that way.
Yes, I would be appreciated.
Thanks for that, Robert. Joe, did you have, I'm sorry, hold on. Go ahead, Roseanne.
Just, was the response that Joe had brought up about the lot that's on the north side of 31st, was there a answer given as to why parking could not be there?
My understanding, the answer given was that my understanding is that he needs the spaces that are there to meet his requirements of the existing daycare business, and that there are not sufficient unallocated spaces to also accommodate this business.
That parking lot is huge.
It's, and then how many employees?
And
does
I
he
think
have in the
we should be clear that that's an off-site lot. That isn't the west parking lot that we're referring to. The parking lot to the north of 31st Street. It's an off-site lot across the street from the 301 West 31st property.
You said that was on Shields?
And no, it's on 31st, but
31st, the north side of the.
again, that offsite lot would need special use approval or possibly administrative adjustment approval, depending how close it is to the use served. But there would be zoning relief needed for establishing any offsite parking on that location as well.
Yeah, because it is a very big lot, and I can't imagine there are like 40 employees in that daycare center that would take up all that parking. If that could be looked into.
Well, we can look into that, but as Robert says, that would still require a zoning relief because it's not on the property or adjacent to the property.
I have a question. This is Carolyn McSisey. How many parking spaces are needed for the child's daycare? And how many are there? I mean, how many do we need? If you're saying it's a very large parking lot, get some numbers. What do we need? And how many are available or would be available for the adult daycare?
So we are using about 20 spots for the staff for the daycare. We also need another additional 6 parking for the adult daycare. That's why we need to change the zoning.
And how many parking spaces are on the lot now? Just 20?
Across the street.
Yeah.
Let me see. About
So if you've got 20
About-
that you're using and you need 6 more, how many are there?
maybe right now we have about, let me see, 28 across the street.
That counts 40
You know
cars.
what, if I could intervene a little bit, there's no designated parking in that lot. I go past that lot every time.
Yeah,
There's no
there's not
striped,
lines.
parking spots set aside. It's not striped at all. It's just a paved lot. With you park wherever you want to park is what it looks like to me. And anybody could take a ride past there and see there's no markings for parking spots in that lot. So it's kind of hard to actually come up with a number of 28 parking spots in that lot when there's nothing striped. And if I was to guess, and I'd be guessing, I would say that there's at least 40, you could put 40 cars in that lot.
40, yes, I seen 40 in there.
Well, going back to the other person, Robert, I think it was said that you would need a special needs variance for that lot also. Why don't we look at what the amount of cars would be into that lot? And if it needs us, both of them need a special needs or special variance, which way would be the better way to go? If we're looking at one that's already very much a parking lot, and it seems that we possibly could get more than 28 parking spaces in there, and you'd have to get a variance for either location, go for the bigger one.
So
Why-
why don't,
Requirement
so-
for the
Now,
adult for the daycare is 20. I mean, we need at least 20 spots for the teacher, but we need additional car for the parents for drop off and loading. So
They don't
You've got
park
the
there.
lot on the west side of the building too.
They don't park there and go get their kids.
the west side of the building is the lot is for only for drop off and loading zone.
No, a lot of kids are dropped off.
You don't
at the
need
front.
that north lot for the drop off then.
Right.
So I hear a lot of different issues going on right now, right? So and I'll just cover all of them to make sure that we're getting all of them. There's not been a good history of care on the part of Howard in the past, which makes it all the more difficult to believe he's going to honor anything moving forward. I just got here. We're working on this. We cleaned things up as soon as we heard about it. And you've got my commitment, and regardless of whatever outcome will come here, and I'm not going to make a decision about this tonight. I think Mr. Moore and Howard need to go back to the drawing board a little bit and just, figure out based on what Robert just shared with us, whether or not they want to change their request at the end of the day. So I think that's what was on the table for today, but I've also heard other concerns regarding the parking lot across the street. You're right, there's not striping in there. I'm not familiar with what the regulations are for a parking lot today, so I want to take a look at that and make sure that everything there is in compliance. So, Howard is on the call, Tom is on the call as attorney. We're going to make sure that everything is as it should be, based on what the laws are in the city of Chicago for maintaining your property for whatever the use is. So I'm taking a note of that. I also heard that the landscaping on that parking lot is probably not what it should be, or like what today's standards are. So I'd like to have a conversation about that as well, Tom. I think if depending on where we land on this, that might be also something that we need to take a look at as far as showing some commitment to, bettering and making sure that the street looks good. I'm sure, Howard is going to want for his business to have some curb appeal too. And he doesn't, I don't believe that he wants it to look dumpy, for lack of a better term, and none of us want that. So you've got my commitment, everybody that's on the call and the residents, to make sure that, whatever direction that we go is an improvement over what's there today and how that's been. I also heard traffic concerns about drop-offs. And Howard, you opening, if you move forward with the senior daycare, that's going to be even more traffic along that street. And, I know you're going to have bus transportation and whatnot. I think when we get to that point, we need to seriously look at what the front parking looks like. And if there's a loading zone, because I think a loading zone probably makes a lot more sense for drop-offs and pickups, because I understand that people are double parking, they're stopping traffic, and then it's dangerous as people go around people that are double parked to get around. And there's their children, obviously, at your daycare, and then there's pedestrians as well. So there are a lot of moving parts to this, folks. Have I missed anything else that you want to bring up in terms of issues?
Daycare center for seniors and children in the same building as an automotive repair shop. There's an automotive repair shop in that building.
Right. So
Well,
whatever's happening in there, I
yeah,
think
how does that work?
the building, I think I've got to talk to and we have to talk to the building code people to understand how that conversion can happen. And what's
Yeah.
required in terms of remediation and whatnot. So I hear you loud and clear, John, on that one. And then Tom, make a note of that as well, because these are all very valid points that everybody's bringing up right now. Joe, go ahead. And
So
then
is
Robert.
This senior center, is that going to be for, can you explain what, I think I talked to Kathy about this before, and that was my question. What is considered a senior center? Put that aside from this 3114.
Sure.
issue
Howard,
here.
do you want to explain what a senior daycare center looks like and how it functions?
It's for adults over 60 years old. I mean, they have activity there, and I mean, like exercise, and I mean, they only stay there like 5 hours a day activities.
So you would provide lunch, and you'd have yoga classes, and you'd have seminars, and it's actually to get people out of the house and get them socializing, and it could be a very I think it where it's worked, it's a very beneficial to the neighborhood and to
Right.
the community.
So I can give you an example of existing senior daycare today. So the Chinese American Service League has senior daycare, very successful senior daycare program in Chinatown, and their list is a mile long. So there is a lot of demand for this. I can attest to that piece of it. And that is where seniors do have an opportunity, rather than staying at home and not being social. They get out, they get exercise, they get social interaction. They also have the opportunity to get potential other wraparound services as well.
Okay, so, and going back to this lot on 31st Street, you're talking about the
Parking lot,
landscape.
is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about right now, Joe?
Yeah,
Okay,
the
got
one
it.
that's on 31st Street,
Mhm.
Howard's parking lot on the north side of 31st Street.
Got it.
You're talking about landscape. The only greenery that's in that lot is the weeds that are growing through the asphalt. And there's cars all over the place. So maybe we could, instead of focusing on changing the zoning here for 3114 and affecting all of us, not only aesthetically, and we're looking at this thing every day, but also our property values. Our property values go up when there's a building there. Our property values are not going to go up with a parking lot there. Not to mention it's an eyesore. So maybe we should, Howard and Mr. Moore should focus on, instead of focusing on 3114 Princeton, focus on the parking lot that's across the street on the north side of 31st Street, and working out that could be his parking lot.
The Chinese guy.
Robert, did you have something else?
Yes, Alderman Lee. Thank you. I just had two other points. One is the unlawful use of the auto repairs, body shop painting that is going on right now in the existing garage. I mean, as of last Tuesday, I was in the alley. I could smell the paint coming through. I would just ask if, we could get those operations to cease, until the time being, until, this is figured out. And then in a more specific issue that I have, Attorney Moore and Howard, is my building at 3116 Princeton that abuts, this lot. I have no front entrance. I have no front building entrance. The main entrance to my building is on the side, 3 feet away from this lot. You do have screening requirements that you have to meet for landscaping. I don't know that, I can't really read the details of these plans. I'd love to see them. I don't know that they're being met, but I would hope moving forward that you, Howard, the design team, you reach out to us as neighbors and try to figure out what the best layout, what the best design is for this. If you're not going to be able to park cars within the front 20-foot setback, how can we make that landscaping look to have this benefit the community? I would just ask for you to make those considerations, please, moving forward.
Thanks for that, Robert. I think those are great requests and suggestions. I'm looking at the fence line where that would be next parallel to your entrance, and right now it's a 4-foot high fence, not high enough. I would imagine if I was living next door, I wouldn't want a 4-foot high fence separating me from a parking lot. So I'll just put that out there. I think that
and it's not even so much the height of the fence, Alderman. I'm concerned about the proximity to my main building entrance. Are my tenants going to be, prohibited from being able to move furniture in? I mean, so just moving forward, can the accessible space maybe be more centered to that lines up with my side entrance? The access aisle for the accessible space lines up, and there could be an opening there. I don't know. There's ways that we can obviously work together and hopefully come up with a good solution.
right. No, I appreciate that, and I've noted the areas of concern for you if this is to move forward. So and Joe, I think Tom and Howard are going to have to go back and take a look at what can and can't be done with the parking lot across the street. Like I said, I'm not going to make a decision on this one way or another tonight. I think there's been a lot that's been brought up tonight that I think we need to just regroup about. So you've got my commitment. I'm not going to make any decisions in that way. And I will get everybody's contact information that's on this call. If you wouldn't mind, if you're able to, can you put your contact information in the chat function so that I can make a note of it, or call Kathy in my office so that I have everybody's information if I need to come back and ask additional questions. That way we can communicate back to everybody. Roseanne, did you have
Kathy
anything
has
else? And
mine.
Diana, did you have any other questions? I just want to make sure everybody's had an opportunity. And Caroline, thanks for joining us.
No, I'm okay.
I had a hard time getting in. So, and I am pretty technical savvy, so make it easy next time.
I'm sorry. I was allowing people in. I have no explanation for why that was happening. So I'm sorry that happened to you. Diana, anything else from you?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will circle back with Tom and Howard after Tom's had an opportunity to review all of the things with the zoning administrator tomorrow or the next day. So as soon as we've got some follow-up information for folks, we'll go ahead and share kind of where we are. I think there's just going to need to be some regrouping. I think the other thing that I wanted to note, just get back on the record here, is that regardless of how things move forward, I think that there's going to need to be some commitments and more than just words. I mean, they're going to have to be words on paper about how you're going to ensure that the things that have not been maintained sufficiently to be a good neighbor are addressed moving forward. Because I think regardless of whether or not it goes through the ZBA or through an actual zoning change, those things are going to need to be included. Tom, and I think you understand this as well.
Absolutely, yes. And we'd like to thank everybody for their time and their suggestions and their sharing of knowledge and all of the different things that you've pointed out. Thanks for your help.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Good night, all.
If you've got anything else that you want to share with me, my door is always open. Give me a call. I'm happy to chat about it. I appreciate you all letting us know, and John and Joe, especially because, I tell people all the time, if we don't know about it, I can't comment on what the office was like before, but when we find out about stuff, we try to take care of it as quickly as possible. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman.
Take care. Have a good
night.
evening.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Now I just have to figure out how to copy all the phone